as if a heart could break at the silence of a hallway. Victor pushed open the door to the main room earlier than expected. The soft morning light poured into the space, revealing an unexpected scene. Anna, the housekeeper, kneeling on the carpet, gently rocking the twin girls who could not yet walk. Their tiny faces reflected smiles of pure innocence, while the woman, muted by tenderness, murmured songs that seemed to weave an invisible embrace around each baby. Victor's steps froze in place. That moment held more than simplicity. In it was the lasting memory of the woman he had loved until her final breath, and the raw pain that refused to give way to hope. Seeing those girls smile as if they carried a mysterious secret stirred in him a mix of gratitude and suspicion. What could Anna possibly be doing, alone with his daughters, to make them laugh that way? If you want to discover what really happens when the billionaire decides to observe the housekeeper who cares for his daughters, and how this simple gesture can forever change the lives of everyone in this home, subscribe to the channel now. Here, you will find love stories born from the most unexpected barriers, full of resilience and emotional twists. Tell us where you are listening from today, and join this family of open hearts. And tell us in the comments, do you believe a simple gesture can reveal powerful secrets? Victor remained still for a few seconds, watching Anna's every movement. She seemed unaware of his presence, rocking the girls in a serene rhythm, as if that silent music was the only comfort in a turbulent world. His heart tightened at the memory of his wife's soft laughter, gone for months, and a pang of guilt made him take a step back. Still, his voice came out low, almost hesitant. "Anna?" She looked up with a restrained smile, her cheeks flushed from tears that had barely dried. The girls opened their eyes, as if sensing that something new was unfolding. One of them reached out her tiny hands toward him, and the billionaire, seized by a protective impulse, stepped closer to the carpet. The air grew thick with emotion. Victor knelt, extended a finger for one of the babies to grasp, and she clutched it tightly, letting out a hiss of discovery. "I apologize for coming in without warning," he said. Anna nodded, still holding both girls in her arms. A respectful silence filled the space. The twins smiled, conspirators in a moment that seemed to come straight out of a dream. Even so, doubt gnawed at Victor. He needed to understand how such a simple scene hid something so powerful. "How did you learn to care for them so well?" His voice sounded firmer. Anna sighed, leaned back on the carpet, and drew the girls closer to her body, creating a small human nest. "My name shouldn't be a secret to you, but I grew up in a distant village where caring for children was part of the daily life of many young women. I helped my younger sister survive when our mother fell ill. I learned to bathe babies in warm water, to sing lullabies to calm their cries, to read the expressions on their faces before words even existed." Victor studied her face. He noticed traces of fatigue, an ancient strength mixed with a rare delicacy. He recalled how many times he had heard the housekeeper complain about long hours, about extra shifts without fair pay, but never imagined that this woman carried so much history inside her. A tightening gripped his chest. How many times had he judged domestic work as a simple duty, without seeing the lives it contained? He reached out to help position one of the girls, who was beginning to whimper. His body relaxed as he saw the patient way Anna stroke the child's fair hair, murmuring words he didn't understand, but that sounded like promises of care. In that silence, punctuated by restrained cries, something disarmed him. He offered to fetch the bottle, as if the ring on his finger also gave him the duty to nurture. Anna accepted the help. As she handed the bottle to Victor, her fingers brushed against his. A subtle jolt passed between them. Neither of them pulled away. The girls calmed as they drank, and warmth spread through Victor's body, the same warmth he had felt when holding his newborn wife in his arms. For a moment, pain and hope became indistinguishable. He set the bottle aside and sat on the floor. He needed to know more. He asked about her childhood, and she spoke of dry fields, unpredictable rains, days when food was scarce, but solidarity among neighbors was abundant. She revealed that she had worked at village festivals, weddings, baptisms, helping to serve food and entertain children. In every word there was both pride and sadness, a fragile balance that revealed her dignity. Victor listened without interrupting. The twins, now calm, played with the cords of their rompers, content. He felt a pang of joy at imagining them growing up in an environment where affection outweighed the sparkle of any jewel. Something new began there, not just the employer-housekeeper relationship, but a connection built on mutual admiration. By the time Anna finished her story, sunlight filled the room. Victor sighed and said, "Thank you for sharing your life with me. From today on, I want you to know your work here goes beyond daily tasks. I want to learn from you." She lifted her gaze, surprised and moved. The girls giggled and tugged at Anna's hair, demanding attention. Victor stood, took a handkerchief, and wiped his face as if waking from a dream. Before leaving, he touched Anna's shoulder gently. "Let's keep talking. There is much I need to understand and preserve." She smiled, a light smile that seemed to hold all the possible future within it. And so, in a simple moment of mutual trust and discovery, the bond between employer and housekeeper began to transform into something neither of them dared to name, but which carried the strength of the small, great revolutions of the heart. The next afternoon, after a hearty coffee served on the terrace overlooking the garden, Victor invited Anna to join him for a short walk through the mango and guava orchard that surrounded the mansion. The twins slept in the portable crib, lulled by the distant song of the birds and the gentle sway of the hammocks. It was the perfect opportunity to talk about simple things, far from the obligations of the day. As they walked among the rough trunks of the trees, Victor asked softly about Anna's dreams. She smiled shyly, looking at the leaves swaying in the wind, and shared that she had always wanted to study accounting, to learn how to work with numbers and spreadsheets, so she could help her family achieve financial independence. She revealed that, before accepting the job at the mansion, she had worked hard to save money through small jobs, but the lack of time and the exhausting routine had prevented her from going to college. He stopped under a mango tree laden with still green fruit and told her that he would like to support her as much as possible. "If you want, I can arrange scholarships for your course. Your aptitude and sense of responsibility have impressed me. I want you to have the chance you deserve." Anna lowered her gaze, her fair skin illuminated by sunlight filtered through the leaves. A gentle blush colored her cheeks. "Thank you, Mr. Victor, but I do not want to take advantage of your generosity. I would rather follow my path with my own strength." The billionaire felt something shift within him. Anna's pride, her independence, were the essence of that integrity that had drawn him to her since the first day. He thought of the wife who would not return, of the promise to care for his daughters until they grew up, and understood that protecting Anna was also protecting the girl's future. "I do not call this a favor or charity. I call it recognition. You deserve it." The courage in his eyes was like a silent invitation for her to accept. They continued walking in silence until they reached a clearing framed by hibiscus bushes. There, Anna spoke of something that unsettled him. "Sometimes I wonder if I truly belong in this world of luxury. I know I work here, but I feel that every move I make is evaluated, measure compared." Victor felt the weight of her words. He himself had learned, from a young age, to hide his feelings, to measure every word so as not to reveal weakness. Now he understood that Anna struggled with the same dilemma, remaining true to herself in an environment that demanded formality. He reached out, touched her arm gently, and said, "Here, there is nothing to prove, Anna. You are part of this home, part of my daughters' lives. I would like you to feel at home, not just like an employee." A thoughtful smile appeared on her face. His heart beat faster when he saw the tenderness in her gaze and the slight glisten in her eyes. In silence, they remained there, sharing the fleeting peace of the garden. Back inside the mansion, the air returned to the quiet of wide corridors and resplendent chandeliers. Upon arriving at the main hall, Victor called the butler and dictated a note. Salary increase, possibility of scholarship, and periodic days off. Anna took the envelope with the instructions, not understanding immediately, and held it with both hands. The billionaire explained plainly, "I do not know how much I can change your past, Anna, but I want to build a better future for you and for the girls." When saying goodbye, he looked at her directly and, for the first time, spoke without the formality he had always used. "Thank you for everything you do." You can truly count on me." Anna slightly bowed her head, moved, and murmured a simple, "Thank you, Mr. Victor," though this time the Mr. sounded more like part of a formality that was beginning to dissolve. That day, both of their lives changed. Victor realized that the closer he got to Anna, the more he understood the value of small kindnesses and the affection he himself had forgotten. Anna, in turn, felt that she could entrust her dreams and insecurities to a man capable of seeing beyond titles and wealth. And so among mango trees heavy with fruit too early to eat and the silent complicity of the garden, a deep and delicate bond began to tighten, capable of challenging everything they both believed about love, power, and belonging. In the weeks that followed, the mansion's routine took on a new rhythm. Victor set aside part of his mornings to be with Anna and the girls. She prepared their milk, tidied the improvised playroom in a corner of the main suite, and still found time to study the accounting books he had provided. Even when the environment demanded distance, long investor meetings, gala dinners, last-minute flights, his thoughts were always there, on Anna's satisfied expression when finishing an exercise, on her victorious smile when solving a logic problem in an introductory accounting book. However, the closer he felt, the greater the inner resistance in both of them grew. There were mornings when Victor, arriving quietly, found Anna withdrawn. She pretended to focus on her phone, avoided eye contact, put her books away in the drawer before he could see them. Sometimes, when he offered help, he received a polite refusal. "It is fine, Mr. Victor. I can manage on my own." It was evident that her independence stood as a shield against something she herself did not fully understand. One afternoon, after a light lunch served on the terrace while the twins napped together, Victor suggested that Anna rest. She raised her eyebrows in surprise. She had never allowed herself a break. She hid her exhaustion beneath her clean apron, but ended up admitting, her voice trembling, that she missed sleeping more than 4 hours straight. He reached to take the cup of tea from her hands and, in an almost paternal gesture, set it down on the table. "You do not have to prove anything to anyone here," he said. "I care about you." In that moment, Anna felt a knot in her chest loosen, but she pulled back. "My strength comes from knowing I must care for these girls. If something happened to me, who would look after them?" Victor lifted his eyes to the clear sky, as if seeking an answer in the vastness. He knew that his own grief was still recent, and that trusting another person required courage. He moved closer and sat beside her. He gently took Anna's hand, as if the touch could convey the many words left unspoken. "Anna, I have already learned the cost of not trusting. I promise I will do my best to stand by your side, not out of obligation, but because I choose you." Her eyes shimmered. A sense of belonging threatened to break through the walls she had built so firmly. Even so, the shadow of social prejudice lingered between them. On a day of business visits, Victor's partner made a spiteful remark in a joking tone. "All this care for a mere housekeeper? You're not trying to play the hero of the people, are you, Victor?" The silence that followed carried the weight of centuries of inequality condensed into a single sentence. Anna, watching discreetly, felt her cheeks burn. Victor responded firmly, "Valuing the person responsible for my daughter's well-being isn't heroism, it's recognition." He then made a point of introducing Anna as a professional, highlighting her experience and loyalty, making it clear that their bond went beyond a paycheck. That night, while checking the security cameras, Victor noticed a sarcastic comment exchanged among some guests, the house's star employee. And now even the housekeeper is becoming a consultant. Anger overtook him. He knew Anna didn't want to be flattered, but she also didn't deserve the silent disdain of those who didn't know her story. He went to her room, where he found textbooks and notes scattered across the makeshift desk. She was lying down, exhausted, and lifted her face when she recognized him. "I'm sorry, Mr. Victor. I should have gone to bed earlier." He sat on the edge of the bed, gently held her chin with his thumb, and said, "There are no apologies here. But if anyone disrespects you, I will be ready to defend you." The days that followed brought small gestures of affection that sealed their bond even more. Victor helping to comb Anna's hair while she nursed one of the girls, Anna preparing his favorite breakfast, the twins laughing as they competed over who would pull the chair out to serve. Still, the fear of fully surrendering lingered. Anna, used to controlling every aspect of her own life, hesitated to accept that the billionaire considered her a true partner, not just an exemplary employee. And Victor, though longing for mutual trust, battled his own insecurity. Did he have the right to love someone so different from his social circle? Yet, with each meeting in the garden and every unguarded conversation in the playroom, the barriers slowly dissolved. The twins, oblivious to adult complications, smiled and reached out their arms toward them both, as if they recognized that together they formed the beginnings of a new family. It was in this simplicity that, brick by brick, the respect and admiration grew into a feeling silently developing between employer and housekeeper, soon to be tested by even greater challenges. That night, Victor's mansion shone with the luminous splendor of a charity dinner to support literacy projects in rural villages. Crystal chandeliers reflected on meticulously set tables, each utensil aligned as if marking the order of a ritual. Cascades of white orchids formed arrangements reminiscent of delicate clouds, and the scent of jasmine from fresh bouquets filled the hall with sweetness. Anna arrived at the event in a simple yet elegant bluish-gray dress, which Jorge, the butler, had adjusted with care so she wouldn't feel out of place. Still, eyes measured her every move, as if comparing this gentle-faced woman to the stiff-collared guests. Victor introduced her naturally. Anna is our housekeeper and also my confidant. Her work makes a difference in my daughter's lives, and today she helped me organize this event. There were murmurs. In some corners, condescending smiles formed. An investor glanced sideways, whispered something to his wife, and she let out a muffled giggle. Anna felt her body tense, clutching her place card to her chest, focusing on politely greeting the hosts. Victor, however, remained by her side like an invisible shield. During the cocktail hour, an executive from a large construction firm approached Victor and joked that Anna looked more like an advisor than an employee. Who would have thought, Victor? Soon we'll have Anna on the board of directors, right? The joke felt like a silent dagger. Anna gave a restrained smile and turned her face away. Victor, with a calm but firm voice, replied, "She can be whatever she wants. She has already proven her competence and character." The man tried to laugh, but the tension in the air dampened his humor. Anna, noticing his defense, felt a wave of gratitude so strong that, for a moment, she almost forgot the discomfort. In the main hall, the orchestra began to play a soft piano piece. Victor invited Anna to dance, extending his hand. Some guests raised their eyebrows. Dancing with an employee was, to them, an eccentric display of wealth. But Victor ignored the silent criticism. As they moved in a simple step, Anna realized the music was filling the void of her insecurities, and the warmth of his shoulders brought her confidence. For the first time, she felt she could occupy any space without needing to prove anything. As they turned, Victor whispered that the next day he intended to meet with local leaders from a village his foundation supported, to ensure that resources reached those who truly needed them. Anna smiled, feeling his fingers lightly intertwined with hers, and recalled the stories of the children she had helped teach to read, the afternoons spent singing folk songs in exchange for smiles. The silent embrace brought the certainty that, beyond being a housekeeper, she had become the partner of a man willing to change his own world. At the end of the night, seeing Anna walking calmly toward the garage, Victor approached and gently took her arm. They leaned against the wrought iron gate, still warm from the lights of the spotlights. Looking into her eyes, he said, "What they think of us doesn't matter. I know who you are, and that's enough." Anna felt her hands tremble. She wanted to reply that her dignity didn't need confirmation, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she smiled and tilted her head in a gesture of complicity. Back at the residence, stripped of social etiquette, Anna realized that for the first time she didn't feel torn between her humble world and the marble halls. Something had changed. The way Victor saw her and made himself available to protect her tore down old inner walls. And in his eyes, the flame of genuine admiration, capable of withstanding society's critical gaze, sparked hope that this connection could blossom beyond any protocol. In that moment, both knew they were ready to face the even greater challenges to come. The morning after the charity dinner, a different kind of silence hung over the mansion. The twins were still asleep, lulled by the last sighs of slumber, while Anna sat at her improvised desk, leafing absent-mindedly through a notebook filled with accounting formulas. Victor watched her from behind a slightly open door, hesitating before stepping in. He felt it was time to move past gentle distractions and into the territory of deeper truths. With his fingers interlaced, he called her name. Anna looked up, visibly tense, like someone bracing for a storm. He took a deep breath and spoke in the tone he used when confronting his own pain. "I'd like to know more about you. About what shaped you before you came to this house." Anna stayed silent for a few seconds, staring at the ceiling. Memories came and went, like heavy clouds on a stormy day. She rested her hands on her lap and began, in a restrained tone, to reveal the secrets she had kept for years. She told him that her mother had died giving birth to her youngest sister, in a private luxury clinic that catered to wealthy clients. In that same clinic, a simple medication error, covered up by those in power, had stolen not only a woman's life, but also the hopes of an entire family. At the time, Anna was 10 years old and had to drop out of school to work and support her younger brother. Every face she encountered in the corridors of that gleaming hospital reminded her of a guilt that had never been hers. Luxury could cost lives. As Victor listened, he felt the air leave his lungs. He remembered the nights when he blamed himself for not being by his wife's side during childbirth, the remorse for not checking every detail of her medical care. Until then, his greatest fears had been account balances or investor evaluations. He had never imagined that his family's legacy of wealth might be rooted in such deep suffering. The walls of the room seemed to close in, heavy with the weight of regret. Anna went on, explaining that over the years she had tried to seek justice. She had hired lawyers, gathered witnesses, but always came up against the influence of the institution that had rejected her. She had felt firsthand the indifference of those who deem the poor unworthy of compensation. She had learned that pain, when it belongs to those without a voice, can be silenced by decrees and piles of paperwork. She had grown up with the conviction that if she ever had power, she would use every cent to build bridges of justice, not walls of privilege. He stood barefoot, feeling the cold of the marble floor. He wanted to embrace her, but feared invading her space. Instead, he said softly, "I didn't know. If my family bears any guilt for what happened to your mother, I want to know. And I want to make it right." The words sounded to his own ears like an apology, not just to her, but to the past they both carried. Anna let out a light sigh, as if releasing something that had hurt for decades. "Thank you for listening," she said. "I'm not asking for revenge. I just want no one else to suffer in silence." The twins stirred with a small whimper and went back to sleep. That fragile pause, interrupted only by the steady rhythm of a new day dawning, bore witness to the moment when two worlds collided to perhaps be reborn on common ground. Victor then made a decision. He would investigate the history of that clinic and other institutions in the network. He needed to understand the extent of the mistakes committed and the depth of the silence that had concealed them. To do that, he would arrange meetings with former directors, review contracts, and speak with those who knew the behind-the-scenes truths. It would not be easy, as it meant confronting powerful lobbyists and shareholders. But for him, no obstacle was greater than watching Anna carry the scars of her past without relief. Before leaving, he gently lifted her chin and promised, "I will bring you answers. I promise to take care of you and do whatever it takes to honor your truth." Anna kissed the back of his hand in a choked gesture of gratitude. From then on, a silent war would take place between the pursuit of justice and the resistance of those who could not accept that wealth be questioned. But that morning love, still new, still uncertain, was strengthened by the courage to expose old wounds. And so, amid the contained cries of two babies and the lingering echo of an adult's grief, the relationship between employer and governess found a new meaning, no longer based solely on trust and mutual admiration, but also on the will to face together the injustices hidden beneath the glitter of power. In the days that followed, Victor plunged into a quiet investigation. He gathered old documents from the clinic where Anna's mother had died and visited dusty archives of the Health Foundation that, for decades, had ignored negligence cases. He hired an independent expert to analyze medical reports and spoke to former employees willing to talk, under anonymity, about procedural failures and intentional omissions of clinical data. All the while, he took care not to alarm Anna. She believed he was only ensuring the quality of care provided to his daughters. One morning, he received a preliminary report. The evidence showed that the anesthesiologist responsible had been warned by another doctor in a confidential internal meeting about failing to verify dosage in a previous procedure. This error, recorded in meeting minutes, had been omitted from the official investigation, which was closed due to lack of irrefutable evidence. In the cold corridors of the mansion, Victor held the report with trembling hands. It was more than documents. It was the chance to restore Anna's dignity, to offer her more than promises. He decided to act discreetly. Instead of immediately taking the case to court or the press, he arranged a private meeting with the clinic's management. He rented a modest room in a discreet conference center in the capital and sent anonymous invitations to 3 former board members who knew about the cover-up. He asked them to bring copies of old minutes and internal records. Some agreed out of a sense of duty. Others hesitated until they saw Victor's unshakable determination. On the morning of the meeting, while Anna cared for the twins in the adjoining room, Victor crossed the marble bridge leading to the event pavilion. His dark suit contrasted with the morning light, as if the gravity of his mission were reflected in the sober tones of his attire. He entered the room where the former directors awaited him. On the rustic wooden table, blue folders and dusty manuals lay beside coffee cups. He thanked each one for being there and, without beating around the bush, laid out the timeline of failures, from the warning given to the anesthesiologist to the manipulation of evidence. Throughout the presentation, the faces shifted between embarrassment and shame. One of the former directors, who had signed the dismissal report, lifted his gaze and murmured, "I never imagined someone would bring this back." Victor replied firmly, "This is not about revenge, but about justice. I want the clinic to officially acknowledge the error, issue an apology to the affected families, and fund a scholarship program for daughters of women who died in negligent private maternity hospitals." The conversation was long, marked by moments of tension, veiled threats of silencing, pleas to keep everything within the institution's walls, and resistance to the term justice scholarships. But Victor remained steadfast. He presented enough evidence to show the reputational damage a public scandal would cause the hospital network. He proposed an out-of-court settlement under the supervision of an independent NGO, ensuring that no legal confidentiality would prevent the disclosure of the results once the agreement was fulfilled. In the end, he signed a memorandum of understanding that established a public apology, the creation of an aid fund for affected families, and the offer of 60 annual scholarships in accounting and hospital management reserved for women from vulnerable backgrounds. He left the room with his hands marked by the weight of the papers and his heart racing. He knew that from then on, nothing at the clinic would be the same, and that, because of it, Anna's pain would be transformed into opportunity. That same day, shortly before sunset, Victor returned to the mansion. He found Anna sitting on the floor of the playroom, surrounded by the twins, reading a chapter from her accounting book. He called to her gently and asked permission to share some news. In a corner lit only by electric candles, he revealed the agreement signed with the clinic and handed her a copy of the memorandum. Anna read every line in silence. When she reached the part about the scholarships, her hands trembled. Tears slid slowly down her cheeks. "You did all this for me?" she whispered. Victor held her face tenderly. "For you and for all the women who deserve the chance to rewrite their destiny." The girls woke up and smiled, as if they understood that something extraordinary had happened. Anna embraced them and then wrapped Victor in a tight hug. In that moment, the 3 became a family united not only by affection, but by the certainty that true love proves itself in the deepest gestures, those that turn pain into possibility. And so, between signed papers and promises of a fairer future, Victor and Anna's relationship reached a new level, that of partners who spare no effort to heal wounds and plant dreams, a decisive step in the journey that, from now on, would lead them to face even greater challenges, but also to reap the sweetest victories of the heart. A few days later, when the routine seemed to settle on new foundations, a silent shadow began to approach Victor and Anna's home. Leon, Victor's longtime business partner, watched with jealousy the growing closeness between the boss and the housekeeper. Convinced that this bond threatened his interest in the company, Leon devised a plan to create mistrust. He forged emails in Anna's name, in which he supposedly leaked sensitive financial reports to competitors in exchange for $1 million offer that would personally benefit her. On a gray morning, while Anna took the girls to the garden to enjoy the sun, the landline rang insistently. Victor, who was preparing for an important meeting, answered with a furrowed brow. On the other end of the line, the tense voice of one of the company's directors announced that confidential figures had reached a digital economics magazine, and that Anna had been identified as the source of the information. Stunned, Victor dismissed the caller with promises to clarify the matter. His heart tightened with anguish as he remembered how much he trusted the housekeeper. He interrupted Anna's walk. Her hand rested on his shoulders, noticing his grim expression. "Is everything all right?" she asked softly. He hesitated and suggested they go to his private office. On the way, the girls toddled along, oblivious to the looming conflict. They closed the mahogany door behind them, and Victor showed her screenshots, emails forged to appear as if she had sent them. The cold words and harsh accusations seemed to thicken the air. Anna read in silence, her eyes wide, unable to believe what she was seeing. Every false sentence wounded the honor she had worked so hard to earn. She let out a stifled sob. "This is a forgery," she said. Her voice choked. "You know me, Victor. I would never do anything to betray your trust." He frowned, torn between the certainty of Anna's character and the weight of the evidence presented by his executives. He placed his hand on his chin and murmured, "I need to investigate before acting." The fear in her eyes, however, revealed the abyss opening between affection and suspicion. In the days that followed, Victor focused on reports, gathered data, and requested a technical counter-analysis of the emails. Meanwhile, the specialized press published articles questioning Anna's integrity, mentioning that the housekeeper of a tycoon had been possibly bribed to leak corporate secrets. The headline skirted sensationalism and implied that, if Anna were guilty, the billionaire might be involved. Social media buzzed with comments ranging from shock to gratuitous malice. Anna, who had once found refuge in the warmth of the home, now felt disapproving looks as she crossed the entrance hall. One afternoon, Victor rushed off for a video call with foreign investors. Anna, alone in the hallway, wiped her tears with the tip of her apron. When he returned, exhausted and still weighed down by doubts, he found only the echo of empty footsteps. In the room prepared just for her, the desk stood untouched, with no accounting book in sight, a silent reminder of Anna's absence. In the crib, the twins slept. Victor called her name, but received only silence in return. As he walked through the corridor, he found on the coffee table an envelope with her handwriting. "Victor, trust is rebuilt by looking into each other's eyes, not through reports. I need time and distance to prove my truth. I ask you not to look for me until you are sure about me." Tears streamed down his face. Every word echoed like a dagger piercing the flesh of what he had been building. That night, the mansion, once so full of laughter, remained empty of affection. Sitting on the sofa, Victor turned the envelope between his fingers and felt solitude invade every room. Anna had left, taking with her not only the girls, but also the hope of a future that, at that moment, seemed to be crumbling. And so, the great turning point was not limited to the betrayal of falsified emails, but to the pain that sets in when distrust takes root where love should exist. The house fell asleep under a heavy silence, setting the stage for the next act in this story of resilience and new beginnings. The days following Anna's departure turned the mansion into a silent labyrinth. Victor trained his gaze on the empty corners, hoping to hear the laughter of the twins or the sound of her voice calling for breakfast. Instead, he found only echoes of hurried footsteps and the dormant perfume of the gardens. Determined to repair the harm he had caused unintentionally, He plunged headfirst into the investigation of the fake emails. He met with digital security experts and log file analysts to trace the origin of the forged messages. He discovered that the metadata pointed to an intermediary server used by Leon, his business partner. IP addresses and login times matched Leon's schedule. Each piece of evidence reinforced Victor's conviction that this was nothing more than a trap designed to drive Anna away and publicly discredit him. Without announcing what he had found, he called an extraordinary meeting with all the company's directors and shareholders. They gathered in the boardroom, whose mirrored walls multiplied the ambient tension. Leon tried to maintain his composure, but Victor, in a firm voice, presented screenshots, reports from independent experts, and access logs. Each slide dismantled the scheme. It pointed to the origin of the forgeries, proved that the governess had never had any connection with competitors, and confirmed Anna's innocence. The silence was heavy when, at the end of the presentation, Victor faced Leon. "You tried to destroy the reputation of an honest woman and drive away the person who matters most to me. What was your motive?" Caught red-handed, the partner stammered in search of explanations, but the words died on his lips. One of the directors, visibly outraged, demanded that Leon be immediately removed from the board and held civilly and criminally accountable. The assembly approved it by majority vote. Leon would be removed and would face justice for defamation and attempted extortion. At that very moment, Victor published an official statement on his corporate profile and distributed a press release to the media. He clarified the whole truth, publicly apologized to Anna, and reaffirmed his commitment to integrity. "Anna is a fundamental part of my life and of raising my daughters. I deeply regret what happened and guarantee that everything will be corrected." The headlines the next day read, "Billionaire refutes rumors and denounces partner for scheme against governess." Meanwhile, Anna remained secluded at her cousin's house, away from the city. She received the statement by text message and hesitated before reading it. When she realized she had been declared innocent and that Victor had admitted his mistake, her chest warmed for the first time in weeks. She took the twins in her arms and, determined, called a taxi. She arrived at the mansion on a sunny late afternoon. The gate opened at the electronic touch, and as she crossed the atrium, she saw Victor standing on the staircase in the hall, holding the girls, watching the path. His eyes lit up when he saw her. She approached with slow steps, the twins stretching out their little arms. He took them in his arms and then opened his arms to her. In silence, they embraced. Words seemed superfluous in the face of the reconnection taking place in that touch. Victor, with a voice choked with emotion, said, "Forgive me, Anna. It was my failure. I should have trusted you from the start." She smiled, held his face in her hands, and replied, "I also need to forgive my fear. Thank you for not giving up on us." The twins laughed and clapped their hands, as if celebrating the triumph of love over distrust. In that silent embrace, not only bonds were restored, but also the hope of a united family capable of withstanding any storm. The fragility transformed into an unbreakable alliance announced. The new beginning had arrived, solid as the mutual commitment to walk together, with no walls between employer and governess, but hand in hand as life and dream partners. The morning after the reunion, the mansion awoke with a different glow. The twins, cradled in Anna's arms, giggled while exploring his fingers, and the echo of a soft melody drifted through the corridor. Victor observed every movement, as if recording in memory the way they reached out their little hands, confident that everything would be all right. He invited Anna for an improvised breakfast in the garden, where the dew refreshed the leaves and the birdsong celebrated the new start. Between sips of hibiscus tea, he held her hand and, with a voice thick with emotion, declared, "Anna, you brought light to the darkest corners of my life. I want to walk by your side not as employer and employee, but as partner and companion in dreams." She smiled, her eyes brimming, and replied, "Victor, you taught me that trust is the first step toward love. I choose to face any challenge by your side, and from our arguments and fears, we have forged our strength." The twins, curious, clapped their hands in a spontaneous gesture of approval. Later, in front of the village school that Victor and Anna had renovated together, a small celebration took place. The ribbons were cut with golden-bowed scissors, and the children ran through corridors painted in warm colors. Anna held one of the ribbons, looked at the twins in the stroller, and said, "Every smile born here will be a tribute to the mother we never saw, but who brought us together." Victor put his arm around her shoulders and added, "This is our legacy. Love that heals pain and brings justice." The sunset paints the sky in shades of orange and violet as they return to the mansion. In the main hall, decorated with photographs of meaningful moments, their first meeting, the dance at the charity dinner, the delivery of the memorandum of justice, Victor kneels before Anna, takes her hands, and asks, "Will you be my partner for life, sharing joys, responsibilities, and dreams?" Anna, her heart beating fast, answers without hesitation, "Yes, with all my being." He slips a simple ring onto her finger, a symbol of a commitment that goes far beyond wedding bands and titles. Soft piano music rises in the background as the twins let out giggles of pure happiness. And so, under the gentle glow of lights that mimic stars, the family embraces Victor, Anna, and the two girls, forming an unbreakable bond. The pain of the past has given way to the hope of a future built on respect, admiration, and a love born from overcoming hardship. We thank you for staying with us until the end. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us where you are listening from and whether you have ever experienced a moment when a simple gesture changed everything. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive more moving stories like this. Leave a like if you believe in the power of love that is born from pain, and share this video with someone who needs hope today. Until the next story, take care, and may love always find a way to bloom.